Hey everyone, I'm Natalie Bencivenga, and welcome to another segment of 5 Minutes With. This week, I am joined by Alexis Johnson, a journalist at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette who recently came under fire after a very tongue-in-cheek tweet that she put out about a Kenny Chesney concert. Yes, you heard that right. So, hey Alexis, how are you?
Hi, Natalie. Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for being here. And I know you've been getting a lot of media attention surrounding the treatment that you've had to experience at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Without having to rehash everything, can you just tell everybody, give us an update on what's been going on?
Sure. Yeah. I guess it'll only almost be 2 weeks now that I was taken off coverage of the Black Lives Matter movement that has been going on since the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Because I sent out a tweet on May 31st, I believe it was, that Sunday, the day after the protest started happening in Pittsburgh. And I was like, look at these scenes from these looters last night. And I was like, oh, no, wait, these are just Kenny Chesney photos. And it didn't take me long to come up with the tweet. Yeah, yeah, right. That's exactly what it was. Like, I speak fluent internet, it wasn't some long political statement that I thought about. And I was like, I'm going to really change the world with this one. Like, I kind of went on about my day. And by that night, it had went viral. And by the next day, they told me that, they thought that tweet showed bias and that my opinion came through in the tweet somehow. It violated these invisible social media guidelines that we don't have. Right. And that, I would be taken off coverage because the credibility of the newsroom would be called into question.
That's a good line.
My favorite part. Yeah. So, my favorite part.
Oh yeah, and a lot of things have sort of transpired, and most recently, the International Guild got involved, correct? Mm-hmm. And can you talk a little bit about what their response to this is?
Sure, yeah. I mean, we've been working with them closely since kind of the beginning of the situation, as well as the Pittsburgh Guild's attorneys. And, after the response from executive editor Keith Burris, where he wrote the quote open letter on Wednesday, I believe that was, and then, sent another statement to the Pittsburgh Black Media Federation yesterday that, was just completely tone deaf. It was insensitive. It was dehumanizing. They didn't even mention my name until maybe like 10 paragraphs down. Just completely gaslighting any feelings or emotions that I may have had to the situation. I guess, advertisers have been pulled. Giant Eagle said that they're going to stop selling the Post-Gazette. I mean, they really have just taken this to a whole new level. And I keep saying they because none of this was us. We didn't plan on single-handedly taking down the Post-Gazette or anything like that. We just told the truth and people reacted how they reacted because it's just a simple case of right and wrong at this point. So the International Guild president called for Karen Kane, our managing editor, and Keith Burris to resign this morning. And I totally support that because, they have shown time and time again, this is maybe the straw that broke the camel's back, but this is by no means the first instance. And any guild member and past guild member like yourself can attest to that. This was just the tipping point, and they have shown time and time again that they are not fit to lead this newsroom, especially during this moment when newsrooms across the country are kind of having this reckoning of race relations and discrimination in their newsrooms. So it's a shame that it had to come to this. I hate being a part of the news. We should all be talking about the movement. But I guess in some ways I'm a part of this movement on the back end of it because, people aren't just protesting for the death of George Floyd. They're protesting for equal rights. They're protesting for equality. And they're protesting to put a stop to instances like what I'm being put through at this moment. So,
no, very well said. This is a systemic reckoning for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think what was really interesting, looking at this and seeing that you were not treated the same as one of your male colleagues who is white in the newsroom who also tweeted out something, and the reaction was very different. So
yeah,
from the get-go,
they actually spoke to him on the same. Yeah, they spoke to him on the same day as me that Monday about our social media conduct over the weekend surrounding the protest coverage. I was taken off coverage and he wasn't. And in fact, he was allowed to write a story the very next day after he already had a meeting with managers. And he covered a story about, Port Authority taking the police down to the protest or whatever the case may be, but it was definitely protest related. And it wasn't until the following day that our union president, Mike Foucault, brought it to Karen Kane's attention and was like, well, you talked to him too. And you also talked to Alexis on the same exact day. Why was she taken off of coverage? And he wasn't. And they was like, oh yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we should do that. And they took him off right after that phone call. So it was a very retroactive kind of response that they had, something that they've been shying away from in these, defense statements that they're putting out. They never mentioned that part of it at all. And that really is just kind of the crux of our whole argument, right? It's like Black people feel microaggressions all the time. We might have feel like we've been discriminated against, but how can you ever really prove it unless you have a situation so black and white, no pun intended, like we have? And we have, that reporter who has came out and spoken on my behalf. He's admitted, exactly what we were saying, that he was spoken to and he was treated differently than I was as a Black woman speaking about a Black issue. So, if you put two and two together, it just really are the facts.
What would you like to see have happen in the future with you and with the Post-Gazette? What needs to happen for you to be able to continue in any way that's positive moving forward?
I have no idea. I mean, of course, there's a bunch of things that needs to happen, but are they gonna happen? I mean, it's clear that, JR Block and the Blocks and BCI support Keith Burris and Karen Kane in their decision. They would not have been able to publish that gaslighting response if it wasn't, backed by the higher powers that be. And like I said, this is not the first time the Post-Gazette has come under fire for instances of discrimination. Keith Burris himself wrote Reasons as Racism. And guess what? He got a promotion. He's literally the head of the editorial board and the executive editor. And they're talking to me about bias. And Keith continuously posts opinion pieces, and he is head of our newsroom. So, there's just a bunch of hypocrisy going on. And at the end of the day, we're not going to see eye to eye. I just don't, it's been 2 weeks. We gave them plenty of time. I just don't see that happening. So I have no idea what it's going to take to change Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I don't know if this instance is enough to get that done. Only time will tell, but, I'm happy to be a part of the larger conversation that's happening around newsrooms across the country, even if it doesn't really change anything here.
Alexis, thank you so much for joining me, for your bravery, for your honesty, for your insight, and for all the good work that you've done at the Post-Gazette and that you continue to do to just bring to light a lot of issues that I think people were unaware of. And you are really a catalyst for change, whether you realize it or not. And I'm inspired by you, and I just appreciate everything that you've done. And I hope you'll come and give us another update soon.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for having me, and I'll come back on anytime. Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks, Alexis.